Hi, my name is Marshall Cruz, and last week my clothing brand did $104,000 in about 37 minutes. Now, the path that I took there is just about as unconventional as it gets. I was adopted, I had really bad anger issues, I was homeschooled, and I was not the smartest kid growing up. I was kicked out of my house when I was 17, 18, and was homeless for a little bit. But now I am running a 7-figure clothing brand. We're on set to do multi 7 figures this year by end of year. I live in my dream house. I have all of my dream cars, and I live a lifestyle that my younger self would be in awe of, to be completely frank. And this isn't me trying to be a dick, being arrogant, trying to just talk about how great my life is, okay? The goal of this video is to show you guys that you can really do anything that you set your mind to, as long as you are willing to put the work in, put your mind to something and stick to it until results start to show. And even if you just take one little micro lesson in this video and apply it, it will mean the world to me, and I'll have done my job here. And without further ado, this is the story of how I went from being homeless and kicked out of my house at 18 to building a $1 million clothing brand by the age of 23. Now, growing up, I had something called reactive attachment disorder. We called it RAD. And what RAD is essentially a mental condition that makes it really difficult for you to form an emotional bond with anyone, specifically a parental figure. And this is typically caused by instability in the home growing up. And for me, I was moved around a lot as a kid, bouncing kind of from house to house to house. My birth mother died at 5 from skin cancer, and this was kind of the start of moving around. She had a lot of issues herself, which made her unfit to parent for the most part, so I moved around with different family members and friends and things like that. And when I was 5, after she passed, I was adopted into a family. And my childhood from age 5 to 18 was essentially rehabilitation, right? I mean, I was fucked up by the age of 5. Very emotionally, radical. At least that's the best way I can describe it. And most of my childhood was a metaphorical obstacle course that was meant to train me out of those ways, put in place by my parents. Now, there was a lot of screwed up things that happened that should have never happened, and I'm not gonna go into detail, but apart from those conditioning factors, I worked a lot as a kid. My dad was something of a workaholic. We had a lot of financial issues growing up. I remember, there was a good portion of my childhood where we would eat expired TV dinners that were donated to us because they couldn't sell. And I remember my dad became a workaholic during that period, and he had a rental business. He started a rental business where he would rent out tables and chairs and tents to car dealerships and people for weddings. And that was the first kind of experience that I got working. It was when I was very young. And in addition, my mom also got a side job. Her side job was selling clothes for a company called Cabby Clothing out of her living room to her friends on Facebook. She would have little get-togethers where she would invite a bunch of friends from Facebook over to her house and show off the clothes, sell the clothes, and that was her side job. And I mostly worked with my dad. I had a landscaping business growing up, and that started because when I was in 7th grade, my mom told me that I had to hire an English teacher. So me being homeschooled, she didn't want to teach me English because me and her butted heads and had a really rocky relationship until I was about 16 and I went to college. But before that, when I was in 7th grade, I had to get a job cutting grass to pay for my English tutoring. And that was the beginning of my landscaping business, which I kind of scaled in high school. I say scaled, but the peak that I ever made doing landscaping was maybe $1,500 a month, so it was nothing crazy. But I want to highlight 2 specific things from my childhood that I really do believe shaped me into the person I am today. And one of them was my time working with my dad. In my high school years, I was a tutor at my college. I worked for my dad's rental company. I did some work for my uncle's rental company. I did landscaping myself, and then I did pressure washing and odd jobs that people would give me on the side, and I became a workaholic because as a child I just wanted to impress my dad, and my dad was just the hardest working man that I knew. And so for me, I was busting my ass 24/7. I didn't do nothing but work and train playing soccer and draw, and that was it. Right? That was what my life consisted of. And I picked up my work ethic from that end of things. And on the other side, the flip side, my mom selling clothing, she was essentially doing affiliate marketing, but it was affiliate marketing of like, the early 2000s and stuff, right? So that was where I picked up kind of the creative entrepreneurial interest in things, right? Because, within entrepreneurial ventures, you have the more business side of things, which is like drop shipping. And then you have the more creative side of things, which is like, clothing brands and such, which is what I do today. So those two things are kind of the primary components that shaped, my adulthood and kind of my passions and stuff today and how I function, right, within the workplace. Now, leading up until I was about 16 years old, my relationship with my parents was very, very rocky. I hated my parents. I didn't hate my dad, but I did have a lot of anger towards my mom, as she was the one administering most of what they called the program, which was their efforts to rehabilitate me. And basically, things were just really rough up until I was about 16. And then I went to college because where I'm from, if you score high enough on specific tests, you can skip the last 2 years of high school and go straight to college, and the college is free. I went to college when I was 16 and I got out of my house, and that is where the relationship with my mom really started to get better, right? It really started to go on an incline. And then one day when I was 17 years old, me and my mom decided to take a road trip to go and pick up a drum set that I wanted to buy on Facebook Marketplace, and we left at about 6 a.m. and at 6:30, about 30 minutes into this car ride, me and my mom were talking about my little sister, and I was driving. We were actually having a great conversation. One of the few that I remember from my childhood with my mom. And in an instant, the front axle of my Toyota Sequoia snapped and the vehicle turned on a dime, and we began flipping at about 70, 80 miles an hour. I think the car flipped between 7 and 10 times. I'm not sure what the police report ended up saying, but it was a lot of times, and the car stopped upside down. I got out of the car and I walked around the back of the car, and I saw that my mom was face down in the asphalt, and I was so delirious and discombobulated that I didn't realize what had happened. My mother had died on impact, but I didn't know. So I began frantically trying to push the car off of my mom to flip the car over, and obviously I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid trying to push over a vehicle, and I couldn't do it, and I was just sitting there by myself at dusk on my knees, watching the blood from my mom's head kind of pool around my knees, holding my mom's hand, just screaming because I couldn't push the car off of my mom. And soon people started pulling up behind me, and then ambulance came, fire truck came, police came, my dad came, and from there it was kind of all a blur. But that moment definitely changed the trajectory of my entire life. And for a year, I just sat in shock. I was very numb for a year, and I watched my mom's absence really tear the family apart. Things just went south. My dad was suffering from grief. We were all suffering from grief, me and my brothers and sisters. I was a mess, obviously. I was driving the vehicle when it happened, and even though it wasn't my fault, there are still subconscious effects that are really difficult on the mind. So for a year, I watched our family slowly crumble, and then my dad got remarried. And the woman that he remarried was not the biggest fan of me, and she had a few conversations with my dad and told my dad that I needed to go. So my dad took me on a walk one day and said, "Hey, you gotta go." So I left, and he told me that I couldn't come back or see my brothers and sisters until I had changed. And there's a lot of gray areas and miscommunications and different opinions and perspectives on how this all went down. But the gist is that my dad told me to leave, told me not to come back. And so I left and I didn't come back. And I was officially homeless. I had a girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend broke up with me shortly after. I had no job because I dropped out of college, and my dad owned the lawnmower, so I lost the lawn business. I didn't have college, so I lost my student worker job. I couldn't work with my dad because we obviously weren't on the greatest of, circumstances. And the vehicle that I was driving was my girlfriend's dad's work truck, as I was an electrician's assistant with him for a while. And when we broke up, obviously I had to give the truck back, so I had no car. And I was also $4,000 in debt because I had gotten entrapped by this MLM scheme that kind of just scammed me out of $4,000. And so yeah, I was in debt, no car, no jobs, no home, no family that I could be intimately involved with, no real friends. You know, I was homeschooled, so there wasn't like I had like friends. I had one friend, his name was Hagen. Shout out Hagen. And I knew in that moment that if I wanted to have a happy ending, that if I wanted to make a life that meant something, I needed to lock the fuck in. So fast forward, some wonderful people from my church let me sleep in their attic for about 8 months. God bless those people. I love them to death. The Edwards, they are some of the greatest people I've ever met, and I am heavily indebted to them. And I hope that one day I can return the favor and the love that they showed me by letting me stay with them for a little bit while I kind of figured everything out. And in this time, I started posting on social media. I started posting on TikTok, and I decided I was going to make some internet money. I was gonna figure it out because I saw people on the internet doing it, and I was like, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. Why not? Why not me? Right? And in this time I was bound and determined to make it work because my worship pastor, which was the man that let me stay in his attic, was really like the most successful person that I knew in person. He was a corrections officer at a federal prison, and they had a good life. He had 2 kids and they had a nice house, and he seemed to have money to spend on vacations and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be like that dude. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get right. So I started posting on social media, started doing fitness coaching for a little bit because I was really into working out at the time. It's one of my outlets to relieve stress. After my mom passed, I just got into it because it was the only place where I could feel like I was making a healthy exertion, right? And this was all during COVID, right? So everybody was online. This was the kind of surge where everybody had an opportunity to blow up on social media. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna miss out on this. So started posting on TikTok, kind of posting my workouts, posting specifically the outfits that I was wearing for my workouts. I became like the gym outfit guy, and I started doing pretty decently. I started doing affiliate marketing for other gym clothing brands. They would pay me and I would market their clothing in my videos, and I started doing pretty good with that. I learned how to kind of like frame clothing and how to market clothing in a way that converted to sales, and I started making some decent money. So after a few months of making some decent money, I moved out, got my own apartment, and I did the content thing full time. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do this content thing full time. I'm gonna full send it. I'm gonna get on YouTube. I'm gonna get on Instagram. I'm gonna get on TikTok, Discord. I'm gonna go the whole 9 yards. And I did for about a year. And then I decided to move to Texas, which is where Alpha Land is, Houston, Texas. And that was the fitness hotspot of that time. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go there and we're gonna make it happen. So I went to Texas. I lived there for a while, and this was probably the most lonely time of my entire life. This place, I had no friends, no one really I connected with. I had very, very few friends. I would work out, I would make my videos for the day, I would prep my food, I would message people on Instagram, as in like respond to DMs and such, and nurture my community, and I would watch anime, and I was a loser. I didn't know where I was gonna go with the fitness stuff. All of the people that were my competition moved out of Houston, so there were no longer healthy competitors in Houston. I felt like I was near top of food chain, but I also just didn't really relate to anyone there. There were lies that were spread about me in that city amongst the other creators, which made them not want to work with me. The lie being that I was being paid or offered a certain amount by a certain company to work with them, and nobody else was offered that amount, and everybody got mad at me and decided not to like me because they didn't like the truth. And the truth was that I was outperforming and that I was meant for more. And after everyone separated themselves from me because they were upset that I was doing better than them in terms of offers and such, that was whenever I spent the most time alone I think I've ever spent. And that was where I really started developing a relationship with God. And that's because God was really the only one I had. So from that point, I decided Houston wasn't the place for me. So I broke my lease and I moved to LA. And this is where I met my roommate, Joey. And I met him in California. He came up to me, and some friends of his that were on the baseball team at his school said, hey, like, this guy's here at this pizza place. You should go say what's up. So he did, and we filmed a YouTube video. He was a filmer at the time. The YouTube vlog did really well. It was just me fucking around, being funny, you know. You guys remember the old vlogs, some of you. And I did that for a year in LA. Now during this time, I was still doing affiliate marketing for the gym clothing brands, but I decided I kind of wanted to get out of that. I kind of wanted to get deeper in the clothing space, and I got offered a position at Ecovision Clothing to do some design for them. And that was my first job, where I got to make clothes and be a part of a clothing brand beyond the capacity of just affiliate marketing. So I started learning the whole process, learning about making clothes, designing clothes, understanding how everything worked. And that was kind of when I was like, wait a minute, I could low-key do this for myself. So I did. Started my brand, started with 2 t-shirts. Well, 1 t-shirt. It was the Tamed t-shirt with the Joker card in the back. Many of you may remember that t-shirt. And I did it in black and I did it in white, and the shirts did really well. People really liked them. And that was my first taste of the clothing brand adrenaline. So I started the brand, and in the beginning, I wanted to call the brand Strange Boy Archive because I was a weird kid. Everybody knew I was a weird kid. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna make a brand for the weird kids like me. So I started that. I started pulling together designs. I watched every YouTube video there was about starting a clothing brand and designing clothes. I got on Adobe Illustrator, I got on Photoshop, started trying to learn designs. I got an iPad, started learning Procreate. And at that time, there were no really good videos on YouTube to watch, to learn about how to start a clothing brand, right? So for me, a lot of it was trial and error, just trying some shit, fucking up, trying some other shit, and fucking up again. And making money here, losing money here, you know, making money here, and then losing it all again here. And in the beginning, I knew that I wanted my clothing brand to be kind of a community and a hub for people. I just didn't know exactly what that was, and I didn't know who I wanted to reach. And then I remember a day in September where we got scammed by a manufacturer in Pakistan, and I lost $40,000 in one day. And for me, I was very irresponsible with my finances at the time, so that was an emergency. That was a not good situation for me, and I had to stop filming YouTube videos because I could not afford to pay my editor $4,000 a month to, you know, film and edit these YouTube videos. And I had dropped my sponsors, so I didn't have any other income, and that was a bad situation for me. And then at the beginning of the next year, I got a job consulting for Young LA, doing some creative consulting for them, just kind of helping them make a pivot from just gym wear into like streetwear. So that consisted of pulling references for them and kind of just highlighting details within the industry and opportunities within streetwear that they could take advantage of, because I was getting very, very into streetwear, right? I was posting all about streetwear. That was kind of my thing for a little bit. And that was just enough money to help me get back on my feet. And I started doing drops again with my clothing brand. And that was when I knew what I wanted my community to be. And I just looked at my own life, and I looked at how I had made something out of nothing, out of a shitty hand dealt to me whenever I was a kid, out of a childhood that no one should have to endure, out of a circumstance where I got scammed out of all of my money and had to start over from zero. And I was like, you know what? If I can do this, anybody can do this. And that's what I want to use my brand to do, to encourage people and inspire people and let people know, like, hey, maybe you weren't dealt the best hand. Maybe you had a shitty childhood, or maybe you've had addiction issues or substance issues or issues with your family or emotional issues. But that's not the end of the story, all right? Everybody has a hero story waiting to be written. And what I want my brand to be is a community for those people, to remind those people that their hero story is yet to be written. And it's up to them to rewrite it. So my brand is essentially an extension of me and my life and my ideology and what I have done with my life and what I hope to do with the rest of my life. So I went all in with it. I decided, you know what, it's this or nothing. If I can't make something really, really cool and inspiring and impactful that I love and wake up every single day excited to build, then I'm not gonna do anything. So I'm gonna do this, we're gonna go all in with it. I went into debt for this. I went down to $0 in my bank account to make this happen. I remember I was negative in my bank account for a long time to make this happen. Maybe 2 or 3 months, which for me, having no credit, being negative in your bank account that's rough. That's scary as fuck. You know, it's crazy. I specifically remember one experience where my roommate had to pay for my Subway on a road trip because I had no money. I had literally no money. Now, to highlight the things that kept me going during this period of having no money and no credit and being just at rock bottom were a few things. 1, the work ethic that I acquired from my childhood. 2, my relationship with God. Started praying a lot, reading my Bible a lot, and spending a lot of time with God because God was the only one that could pull me out of the situation that I was in, being so low and so screwed and so fucked. And he was faithful to me, just as he promises in the word, and he helped pull me out of that situation. He gave me the blessings and opportunities that I needed to get out of that hole and get back on my feet. I believe that he is the one that set the stage for me to be able to get the job with Young LA, that helped me get back on my feet. And that spiritual transformation at my lowest point probably will be the most important period of my entire life, and will probably set the stage for the impact that I will have for the rest of my entire life, and the things that I will accomplish and the things that I will do and the people that I will help. So the lessons that I learned are: number 1, do my research. Number 2, don't trust Pakistani manufacturers. Number 3, build a really, really good relationship with your supplier. Number 4, never fucking give up. Number 5, get right with the Lord and he'll get you right with the rest of your life. Now, fast forward to today's date. There has not been a month where I have made less than 6 figures. I believe in the past 7 to 8 months, my highest single day of revenue was about $140,000. I have worked with amazing people all over the world, built my Instagram page for the brand to about 50,000 followers organically from just my content. No influencers, no ads, no nothing, just pure community and organic drive from my content and the brand's content. And it got to a point where I was doing well enough with my business, and I was learning so much, and I was growing so much within my business and just as a person in general, that I started attracting a lot of people who were asking for help with their brand, right? Help finding manufacturers, help understanding creative process, help understanding fulfillment, help with pre-production, help with creative direction, help with identity development. And through that period, I decided I was going to build a university, so to speak, for anyone who wanted to build a clothing brand, specifically one that would last a long time, that was creatively backed, that was fulfilling, that was impactful. And I decided I was going to call it Urban Unity. And I spent about 8 months building a methodology and kind of a syllabus to basically guarantee a student successful drop in 3 months if everything was done correctly and up to our standards. I built essentially a fast track from starting your brand to developing your brand's identity to establishing a good creative direction with your brand to building a supply chain to managing finances to reinvestment strategies to creative process, understanding content marketing, understanding product marketing, understanding product research, competitor analysis, and kind of, again, developed a syllabus, a curriculum, so to speak, that would take really anybody who was willing to put in the effort from zero, having no clothing brand, to having their first successful launch in the period of 3 months. This should take you 3 months, and if every input is done to our standard, which in our program, every input is like a homework assignment, and every homework assignment is essentially graded or reviewed by one of our Urban Unity experts, whether it's an assistant coach, a CSM, one of my assistants, or myself individually. And if every input is done to our standard in 3 months, you should have a successful clothing brand. And I wanted to make this thing the best educational opportunity that the world has ever seen for people strictly who wanted to build a clothing brand, because that's what I did. That's what I love to do. I spent 5 years banging my head against a wall, trial and error in this, because there was no mentors whenever I was learning everything. There was no good YouTubers, there was no good courses, and I deadass just had to learn everything from trying shit, fucking up, and then trying something else, and fucking up there, and then trying again, and maybe having success here, and then trying again, and fucking it all up and starting from zero. That's what I did for several years, and that is why I created Urban Unity, because Urban Unity is exactly what I would have wanted, and it's exactly what would have kept me from losing all of the money that I did lose and all of the time that I did lose, and just going through all of those really tough periods where I wanted to quit and it didn't even make sense for me to keep going. So I created Urban Unity for myself, essentially, myself 3-4 years ago. So the precursor to all of this was making these videos and teaching other people what I knew and what I was learning through YouTube format. I started making these videos beginning of 2025 and really putting a lot of time and effort into them, because for me, a banger YouTube channel with accurate information from somebody who had actually done it that was free to learn and apply was what I would have wanted, whenever I was 19, 20, starting all of this shit, fucking up, losing all my money, going broke, right? Like I wanted to be the version of myself that I would have needed whenever I was figuring all this out. So in the next 2 or 3 years, my hope is to scale my brand to be one of the biggest in the US and to be working on expanding internationally, going to Paris, going to Europe, going to Asia, going to Japan. I want my brand to leave a mark on everyone who gets to be a part of it. I want it to be kind of a beacon of hope for people who are in my situation growing up, or people who feel like they're defeated, like they don't have a chance for success, like they don't have a chance for ascension. And that is why we have our motto, the chaotic pursuit of an imperfect superior self, because we want to encourage people who come from imperfect, shitty situations that they can be better, that they can be superior, that they can persevere and ascend in spite of anything going on in their life, anything that happened in their past when they were a kid, anything that's holding them down in their life right now. I want my brand to inspire those people, and I want to give those people kind of a hub of hope and community where they can feel like, there's other people like me, and if these people are making it happen, then I can do that too. And in terms of short-term goals, we want to do $1 million in Q4 of 2025. We want to make our first appearance at Complex Con. We want to host our first big influencer event. We want to begin getting into collaborative campaigns with influencers, and we want to begin expanding horizontally, not just through myself. As of late, since the beginning of the brand, it's just been me bringing in customers, bringing in attention, and I want to change that. I want to get to that next level, and I have been preparing for this all year. And for me, fourth quarter is going to change my life. It's going to change the life of the brand. It's going to explode, and I'm very, very excited for that. We have put everything into place and prepared for this to ensure our success, and you guys will see in the next 4 to 6 months that I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm gonna do something, you know damn well I'm gonna do it. Every time I've said I'm gonna do something, I've done it, and that doesn't change here. Now, there's a few things that I want you guys to take from this video, aside from my backstory and everything. The first is that the most important mind shift that I experienced that really led me to the success I've acquired today is understanding that when you pray for wisdom and when you are on a quest for wisdom and knowledge, what God will do is He will teach you through experience. And in the same way that if you had a child and you wanted that child to have certain traits, you wouldn't go to the trait store and buy patience and strength and honesty, right? You would maybe say, hey, I want my child to have patience, so maybe I'm just not going to give him everything he wants when he wants it immediately, you know? And if I want my child to have honesty, whenever he lies or does something dishonest, I will inhibit repercussions. I will discipline my child, right? And for me, I needed to understand that the hardships that I went through, the struggles that I went through as a kid and growing up were simply the stepping stones to acquire a trait that was needed to accomplish something that I wanted to do, to be the person that I wanted to be. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without having walked through those traumas and hardships and tribulations, all right? So understanding that is very key. Understanding that every hardship that you experience is you acquiring the experience to become the person that can withstand those in the future, and to become the person that can beat those in the future and that can ascend and be better. I would not be the man I am today had I not experienced those hardships, because they conditioned me for what I have in store in my future. For example, if I hadn't gone through those trials whenever I was a child, I wouldn't have been able to overcome the trials of having no money and having all of the pressure in the world to make money and make it happen and pay my bills, you know? And I would have quit the brand, right? And if I had quit the brand, then I would not have had impact on all the people that I've had impact on and all the people that I will have impact on. And you really need to understand that you should be grateful for every single difficult experience that you have on this earth. You need to be grateful, because you need to have in the back of your mind that those negative experiences are only contributing to the better self that is waiting for you on the other side of those negative experiences. So be grateful for hardships, be grateful for trials, be grateful for the times where you're in the trenches and you're struggling, all right? Because that is carving you into the man or woman that you need to be to achieve your dreams. And it's funny because a lot of people would hear my story and be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. I hate that that happened to you. But I am not sorry. I don't wish my past looked any different, because I know that my past shaped me into the man I am going to be, the man I am today. If I want to impact hundreds of thousands and millions of people in a positive way, if I want to be a leader to hundreds of thousands of people, if I want to be the best version of myself, the hero version of myself, I had to go through those things in order to acquire the conditioning required for me to be that man. And the next thing that I want to say is I've actually kept my past hidden from the internet for a long time. I've been on social media making videos for around 5-6 years now, and I kept my past hidden for a long time. And the reason I made this video today, revealing where I came from, is to remind you that little Marshall can go from a traumatic childhood to being all alone with no money, no home, no contact with his family, no job, no girlfriend, to doing upwards of $140,000 in a single day with his clothing brand. That you can too, because I'm not special. I'm not any smarter than the majority of you. I didn't have a financial advantage. I didn't have a trust fund. I didn't have parents that helped me out with money, credit, or anything for that matter beyond my childhood. And if I could do all of this in spite of those circumstances, then you can too. All right, and I know everybody says, oh, well, if I can do it, you can do it too, bro. But you guys should know, after hearing my story, if a fuck up dirtbag like me can do this, then you absolutely can too. Because no matter what ending that you've written for your life, God has a happy ending that's better than you could ever imagine. And he's just waiting for you to take that opportunity and make something of it. Now, I know this video has been a little bit more serious than my typical informative style of videos, but I want to leave you guys with one last thing, and this is a gift from me to you. I will be hosting a free 3-day live masterclass on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We will be hosting it at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and whether you are a beginner and you are just starting your clothing brand, or you already have a brand and you're looking to scale and take it to the next level, this will be the most value-packed seminar that you will ever attend. Again, it's completely free. It's 3 days at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, this should definitely not be free. I should definitely be charging every single person that attends. But again, because I want to speak to the younger version of myself that would have wanted that guidance that I never had, I'm making it completely free for you guys. All you need to do is tap into the link in the description to save your seat and secure your spot. Again, we are not opening this to the public. It's just for my audience, and I will more than likely never be doing this again. I don't think that I'll ever drop this much value and sauce on the internet in terms of clothing brand guidance ever again. So this will be probably your best opportunity to learn from me, and especially for free. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for investing in my journey. I hope that I have in some way, shape, or form been able to help you with any of my videos on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. I hope that you got something from this video. I hope that I can inspire or encourage at least one of you to chase your dreams in spite of. And I look forward to seeing you all at my seminar on October 1st. And again, to save your seat and lock your spot in, hit the link in the description, and I'll see you there.